Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Have you ever heard of angels who defied the divine order and paid the ultimate price for it? Among the many ancient and mysterious accounts of celestial beings, there is a little-known but extremely powerful tale, an ancient narrative buried beneath layers of silence and mystery that tells of the fall of the Watchers. This is no ordinary tale, nor a fable shaped by popular imagination. It is a scar etched into the fabric of creation, an event so profound that it reverberated in the heavens, traversed the spiritual realms, and took root in the very soul of the earth. Amid the many accounts of celestial beings and divine battles, few carry the symbolic and existential weight of this story. According to ancient scrolls, especially the mysterious Book of Enoch, 200 angels, beings forged from primordial light and entrusted with watching over humankind, made an unprecedented decision. It wasn't a command from above. No divine decree was issued. It was a choice. A deliberate and unified act of rebellion, driven by a desire that, for celestial beings, was the gravest of sins: to love as men love. These angels, later known as the Watchers, abandoned the heavenly realms to unite with the daughters of men. A gesture that, at first glance, might seem romantic, even noble, but in truth was a direct affront to the sacred order of the cosmos. They broke from the Creator's design and unleashed a chain of events that would forever alter the fate of Earth and humanity. But why would these beings, endowed with knowledge, power, and spiritual clarity, choose such an extreme path? What led them to trade eternity for a fleeting moment of earthly pleasure? The answer lies in one of the most paradoxical gifts granted by the Creator: free will. Even the angels, conceived for specific divine purposes, were given the ability to choose. And in that ancient age, blinded by overwhelming passion and seduced by the promise of dominion and delight, these Watchers fell. Their radiant wings darkened. Their eternal glow was stained by the shadow of transgression, and in choosing to descend, they chose also to fall. Yet, there is something even more enigmatic and deeply moving within this narrative. Among the many names condemned for eternity as celestial traitors, one shines with a different light. One who, according to long-forgotten texts and whispered traditions, was forgiven. A fallen angel who, against all expectations, found redemption. This exception turns the tragedy into something far more complex. A story not only of a fall, but of potential reconciliation. A glimmer of hope where all seemed lost. And it is precisely this thread of light, this spark of mercy in the abyss of rebellion, that guides this journey. His name is Sariel. For scholars of ancient scriptures, Sariel is a name of great weight. A high-ranking angel whose presence was not limited to executing orders, but who had access to deep celestial mysteries. He was not merely a bystander in the Watchers' uprising. He was there, at the critical moment, when Semjaza, the most eloquent and persuasive among them, sealed the pact of disobedience atop Mount Hermon. On that silent, tension-filled night, 200 celestial beings pledged loyalty to one another in an unbreakable vow: to renounce heaven for the love of the women of earth. An alliance sealed not just with words, but with full awareness of the consequences. It was more than an impulsive act. It was a calculated revolt against the supreme order. Yet Sariel's presence in that scene carried a nuance the others lacked. Yes, he descended. Yes, he witnessed and participated in that critical moment. But what happened after his arrival on Earth drastically sets him apart. Unlike his brethren, whose conduct plunged into excess, corruption, and manipulation, Sariel seemed to take a parallel path, one that, in the eyes of the Most High, still bore traces of purity. While the world became a stage of chaos and unmeasured excess, the fallen angels sank deeper into transgression. Overcome by desires they had never known before, they taught mankind knowledge that heaven had sealed away for reasons beyond human comprehension. What was sacred became profane. What was meant to remain hidden was unveiled. Ancient magic, Incantations that bent the laws of reality, alchemical formulas, war-forged metallurgy, and secret truths of the cosmos were handed to men as perverse gifts. And more than that, the Watchers united with the women of the earth. From these unnatural unions were born the Nephilim, giants of immense strength and corrupted souls, beings who belonged neither to heaven nor to earth, hybrid creatures, devourers of creation, who walked with a thirst for blood and eyes burning with destruction. The earth, once a garden molded tenderly by the Creator, was now becoming a field of desolation. The balance had been broken. Yet in the midst of this growing darkness, one figure stood apart: Sariel. Unlike his brothers, he did not fully surrender to the intoxication of flesh and power. Yes, he descended, but not as an accomplice, rather as a witness. And upon setting foot on the profaned soil, he realized that what was unfolding before his eyes was a colossal error. Sariel stepped away, not out of fear, but from discernment. His eyes, once fixed on the earthly horizon, lifted again toward the heavens as if seeking answers, redemption, or perhaps one final chance to repair what already seemed beyond repair. To the other angels, his posture was a sign of weakness, an unacceptable hesitation, but to Sariel, it was wisdom. He saw beyond immediate pleasure and the illusion of dominion. He understood the eternal weight of his decisions, and it was this very awareness that moved him to act, not with violence or force, but with words, counsel, and warning. Ancient fragments of forgotten texts, lost oral traditions, and rare codices speak of an angel among the fallen who tried to stop the tide of corruption. One who, in mercy and clarity of mind, warned his brothers of the abyss they were digging with their own hands. That angel was Sariel. He walked among the fallen like a solitary flame, trying to rekindle in them the memory of what they had once been. Servants of light, guardians of balance, children of the Most High. But his pleas fell into the void. With each passing day, Earth became more unrecognizable. The Nephilim, products of the Forbidden Union, spread terror, conquering human tribes with their supernatural strength and intelligence. Some proclaimed themselves gods, demanding sacrifices, raising monuments in their own honor. Others, driven by an unquenchable hunger, devoured all they encountered: animals, crops, men. Creation groaned, deformed by a generation that should never have existed. Sariel watched, powerless, yet never complicit. He raised no temples, proclaimed no hidden teachings, took no wife, and fathered no children. His choice was one of silent vigilance, a presence that observed, lamented, and, when possible, tried to restore some remnant of balance. He saw with deep anguish the growing distance between what the Watchers had been and what they had become. Like gods among mortals, they had forgotten their true mission: to protect, not to dominate; to serve, not to exalt themselves. It was in this atmosphere, saturated with sin and ruin, that God's judgment was unleashed. And when the Most High judges, he does so with perfect justice and an infallible hand. From the highest throne came forth irrevocable decrees. The rebellious angels would be punished, and the earth purified. Michael, commander of the heavenly armies, was the first to descend, bearing his flaming sword. Raphael, healer of the world's wounds, followed, along with Gabriel, herald of the divine will, and Uriel, bearer of the light of judgment. The four great archangels marched like sacred storms, bringing with them the chains of justice. One by one, the Watchers were captured, their wills crushed, their spiritual forms shackled, their voices silenced in the depths of darkness. They were cast into deep spiritual prisons, sealed by divine enchantments to await the day of final judgment. Semjaza, who had led the pack atop Mount Hermon, was the first to fall. His followers, one after another, were dragged down by celestial wrath. But Sariel was not imprisoned, not because he was forgotten, nor because he escaped the eyes of the archangels. He was seen, he was judged, and yet he was spared. The one who sees all, the creator of the heavens and the earth, had observed Sariel's every step. his dissent, his restraint, his abstinence, his solitary effort to contain the catastrophe. God, in his omniscience, saw in Sariel not merely a hesitant transgressor, but a faithful servant who, even amid rebellion, chose righteousness. This did not exempt him from judgment, but it set him apart. While his brothers were cast into darkness without appeal, Sariel was brought before the throne, his case heard, his actions weighed with justice. And in that moment, something seemingly impossible occurred. Grace was granted. According to ancient traditions, preserved in the echoes of time and in apocryphal fragments, Sariel was indeed summoned into the presence of the Most High. Not as a mere defendant, but as one whose judgment required more than evidence or testimony. Before the divine throne, where no error escapes notice and all truth is laid bare, Sariel stood in silence. There was no need for words. His conduct, his refusal to act when all others acted corruptly, his decision not to cross sacred boundaries, was itself a confession of loyalty. And in that reverent silence, the unthinkable happened. A gesture of mercy as rare as it was magnificent. Sariel was forgiven. But it was not merely a suspension of condemnation. What was granted to him went far deeper, a complete restoration. The one who had descended to earth but had not allowed himself to be corrupted was reinstated to his original place among the angels. His glory was returned, his essence purified, and with that, Sariel ceased to be a mere observer among the fallen and became an eternal symbol of redemption and obedience. This divine decision, extraordinary in its generosity, distinguished Sariel forever. Among 200 angels who chose perdition, he alone chose righteousness. He alone, though surrounded by the same setting, the same temptations, the same opportunities for transgression, chose to remain faithful. He stood on the very mountain where the rebel pact was sealed, felt the same passions that consumed his brothers, but did not bow. He did not give in. He chose the lonely path of integrity over the illusory glory that consumed the others. Sariel thus became an eternal reminder that the fall is not an inevitable destiny, that even those who approach the abyss may still turn back toward the light. His story reveals that conscious choice is possible even amidst widespread corruption, that righteousness can exist in the darkest of contexts, and that fidelity, even silent, echoes louder in the heavens than any cry of rebellion. But the forgiveness he received did not mark the end of his journey. On the contrary, it inaugurated a new chapter, even more sacred and significant. Sariel was not merely spared eternal condemnation, he was honored with a new purpose. His soul, now further refined by the experience of trial, was assigned a mission that required not only holiness, but empathy, wisdom, and understanding. Restored to his glorious form, Sariel was elevated to one of the highest positions among the heavenly hosts. In sources such as the Book of Enoch, he is mentioned as one of the 7 holy angels, a spiritual elite that stands before the very throne of God. These 7 are not mere executors of divine orders. They are the pillars of the celestial will, intermediaries between the highest and the lowest, between the infinite and the fleeting. To stand among them was not merely an honor. It was an eternal seal of trust, sanctity, and redemptive mission. And the mission entrusted to Sariel could not have been more fitting to his unique journey. In his unfathomable wisdom, God charged him with guiding the spirits of the righteous, and more specifically, those who, despite having erred, still harbored a spark of repentance in their hearts. His role became that of a sentinel of hope, guardian of those still capable of being saved, counselor to those who, like him, walk the edge of the abyss but desperately seek a way back. No other angel was more qualified for this task. For Sariel knew, not in theory but through experience, the weight of temptation, the silence of heaven in moments of doubt, and the crucial importance of a choice made at the right time. He knew what it was to have a heart torn between light and shadow, and yet find the strength to choose righteousness. That is why his presence among wavering souls is more than symbolic. It is deeply effective. He does not judge, he understands. He does not accuse, he guides. His role is not that of punisher, but of redeemer. And in this silent and compassionate task, he exercises a power far greater than the one the Watchers so desperately coveted, the power to restore. Sariel thus became a living instrument of divine grace, a sacred reminder that the Most High is not pleased only with those who have never erred, but also, and perhaps especially, with those who, even when given the chance to fall, choose to remain faithful. This new task brought him into direct contact with human souls, not those who are irredeemably corrupted or condemned, but those still fighting an internal battle against their own failures. These are spirits marked by error, by stumbles and missteps, but who, despite everything, have not given up the fight. Sariel acts as a silent guide, an almost imperceptible but powerful presence that guides, protects, and warns those who find themselves at decisive crossroads, mirroring the very choice he once had to make. Enoch, the patriarch who, according to scripture, was taken to the heavens without tasting death, reports in his celestial visions that Sariel holds a position of immense responsibility in the spiritual realms. He is the one who watches over the destinies of souls, who maintains the delicate balance between divine justice and infinite mercy, and who witnesses, moment by moment, the internal struggle of countless human beings. His role is not to judge harshly, but to watch with compassion, not to condemn without appeal, but to guide with wisdom. And that role says much about the character God recognized and valued in him, the capacity for empathy, and the unwavering strength of righteousness. Sariel's journey has become a model of active redemption. Unlike the other angels who fell and were consigned to oblivion in the abyssal depths, he lives eternally as living proof that obedience, even amid doubt, pressure, and temptation, holds immeasurable worth. More than that, his celestial life has become a luminous bridge between those who feel lost and the real possibility of returning to the path of light. There is no arrogance in his role, only humble and dedicated service. He does not flaunt his restoration as a trophy, but lives it daily, serving those who most need a guide. It is crucial to remember that Sariel carries within him the vivid memory of all he witnessed. He saw the rebellion up close. He knew the faces of his companions before darkness consumed them. He saw the unspeakable terror the Nephilim unleashed upon the earth, and he felt the cold silence that fell over heaven when the gates closed to the disobedient. That deep memory makes him all the more sensitive to the complex decisions of humankind. He knows, from lived experience, how small choices can alter entire destinies. He understands how easy it is to slip and how immensely difficult it is to remain firm in the face of adversity. There are records suggesting that Sariel also plays a role in the judgment of souls, particularly in the delicate separation between those who still hold a chance of redemption and those who have deliberately chosen darkness. This does not make him a merciless judge, but a watchful and compassionate observer, whose own story serves as a measure of grace and discernment. After all, who better to walk with the fallen than one who has stood at the edge of the abyss and chose to return? Sariel's mission continues to this day, according to some traditions, not as a visible or imposing figure, but as a spiritual presence, active and subtle in the world. His influence is almost imperceptible, a whisper in the wind, an intuition in the heart, but it is profoundly real for those who are searching for direction and purpose. Many who feel a sudden call to change, who experience a deep awareness of their errors, or who find unexpected strength in moments of despair may be, unknowingly, under his compassionate watch. The story of Sariel invites us to deep reflection. The fall does not have to be the end. Even those who have come close to the gravest error can still choose the path of restoration and redemption. Sariel made that choice, and today his eternity is devoted to helping others do the same. He is the angel who fell, but was not corrupted. The only one among 200 who chose obedience over pride, and for that, he became not just a restored one, but a restorer. If this story intrigued you as much as it did me, the story of Sariel, the only one among 200 who was forgiven, Just imagine how many other mysteries still lie hidden between the lines of ancient texts. So, if you love exploring these lesser-known, deeply meaningful stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any content that reveals the deepest secrets between heaven and earth. May God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
From now on, each of our videos will come with a special guide to help deepen your spiritual journey. With every new video, we lovingly select 10 biblical inspirations to bring comfort and peace to your soul. It's a motivational and inspiring resource, created with care especially for you, who are always with us. And by purchasing this ebook for a symbolic price, you're also helping us continue creating the high-quality content our subscribers truly deserve. The link is in the description.